So coming back together in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Excellent. More factoring review. So as I factor this one, I know I have a V and V. If this is a positive, what do both of these signs have to be because this is a negative? They both have to be negative, no matter what. So what two numbers, when I multiply, I get 56? Let's write them down. 56 is 8 times 7. Does that work? No, doesn't work. What else is 56? 14 and 4. Does 14 and 4 work? What about 2 and... Do you see how I'm pulling numbers out? Like I took a 2 out of the 8 and gave it to the 7, and then I'm going to take a 2 out of the 4 and give it to the 14. 2 and 28? Does that work? No. This is not factorable. What does that mean? What does it mean if it's not factorable? What are we trying to find when we factor? X-intercepts or roots. That means this one has no roots. Check this out. I have it on GeoGebra. Since it's y equals x squared minus 7x plus 56, doesn't it cross the x-axis at 56? 56 is a big number, right? So if I were to move this up here, 56 is way up there. My parabola is nowhere near touching the x-intercept. See that? Where's the x-intercept? Or where's the x?
All but 56.
Whoa, way down here. See that? It doesn't always have to cross the x-axis. Okay? So when you're factoring these, keep that in mind. All right, let's look at this one. What should I do with this first? Okay, divide by 5 or factor out of 5. When I factor out of 5, what do I get? Minus 11x plus 10. Try and factor that. Tell me what you get. First of all, the first in the first is x and x. So you're just looking at factors of 10 that will work. This is a plus sign and a negative, so what do I know? Negative, negative. Not much you have to work with this one, right? 2 and 5, and what's your other option? 10 and 1. By looking at it, can you see which one it's going to be? Does 10 and 1 work? It works. All right. What about this one? What should I do? Factor out of 4. What am I left with when I factor out of 4? Plus 8x? Plus what? 32, looks like? What are the factors of 32? This is plus and plus, so what am I going to have? What are my signs going to be? No, what are these signs going to be? Plus and plus, right? So I've got a plus and a plus. It's got to be plus. I've got a cool video that shows that if we have time today, okay? So tell me, what are the factors of 32? 4 and 8. Does 4 and 8 work? No. What else? 16 and 2. Does that work? No. 1 and 32. That obviously doesn't work. Is this factorable? Can I go up anymore? 4, 5, 6. I'm saying this is not factorable. 4x squared plus 36x plus 128. Let's check it out on GeoGebra. Y equals, can you guys see my typing down here? Y equals, what was it, 4x squared? I have to use a little caret sign for a squared. You see that? A little bit? 4x squared plus, what? 32x plus 128. Put that in there. All right, I know 128 means I'm way up there. Green. I could go by factored form, but 128, that's my y-intercept. Do I even really need to, do you want me to go all the way up there? Oh, look at that. This is way up here. See that? Coming down right here. So those roots are imaginary. We're going to be talking about that very, very, very soon. Okay, factoring in reverse. So if I were to tell you, I'm going to tell you right now, this is on your quiz on Tuesday. So pay attention, okay? Write a quadratic equation in standard form given the roots. So it's like reverse. If I tell you my roots are at 6 and -4, what would those look like this? What would that look like? X minus 6 and X plus 4, right? Correct? So how could I turn this into a quadratic equation? FOIL. So first, outer, inner, last. What's my first? X squared. Then my outer. And then my inner. And my last. -24. So all of that is x squared minus 2x minus 24. I was told to do it this way by somebody before. I usually just do this. What do you guys think of this way? You like it? You can see it better than a bunch of arrows, right? A bunch of rainbows. So I'm going to try and do it this way now. All right, so this would be the answer in standard form. What about this one? What does this mean? It's a fraction there. Scary fractions, right? What does this mean? 2/3 and 2. Those are my roots. What does that mean on my graph? Where would I go on my graph, guys? Well, that's to get the equation, but I'm talking just on the graph. My root's at 2. Where's 2/3? Between 0 and 1, right about there. That's all that means. Okay, so it would be x minus 2, because it's the opposite, right, when you solve for 0. And this one would be x minus 2/3. We don't normally see it like that, though, right? Let me grab this one. Let's play with it a little bit. How can I make it so there is no fraction in here? How could I make sure there's no fraction? Multiply by what? Not 3. Simpler than that. Clearing the denominator, I taught you guys, right? What would I multiply everybody by? So if I multiply everybody by 3, wouldn't I get 2x minus 2 equals 0? Sorry, I'm sorry. Yeah. Right, if I multiplied everybody by 3, let's do that in reverse. When I solve for 0, what happens? What do I do first? Add 2 to both sides. I get 3x equals 2. Then what would I do? Divide by 3. Didn't I get what I started with? So how did I do that? Let's try that again with something different. 4/5. If 4/5 is a root, that's x minus 4/5. How would I change that? Multiply by 5. So is 5x minus 4 equals 0 the same thing as x minus 4/5? See how I did that? You are going to have to be able to do that. It's in your homework on Monday, and it's on your quiz on Tuesday. I'm going to show it to you again on Monday, though. Okay? All right, let's go back to this now. So since I know, instead of this being, I'm going to erase this. So this is x minus 2 and what? 3x minus 2. So now I'm going to FOIL it. What's my first? 3x squared. What's my outer? Outer, outer. Negative 2x. What's my inner? Inner, inner. Negative 6x. What's my last? 4. Put those together and I get 3x squared minus 8x plus 4. If I were to do this and factor this, I would get this. This would be my answer. If I were to factor this, I would get 6 and negative 4. Do you see how it's the process in reverse? Okay, we'll try it again on Monday? Yes? Okay. Fantastic. All right, so pencils down. I'm going to give you your homework in a little bit, but let's work through this one together. So what's my first step in doing this? Factor out a negative 4. What's the behavior? It's going to be a frowny face. Where is it going to cross the y-axis? Negative 18. Good. Across at negative 18. We know that just by looking at it, right? That's a big, huge piece of information right there, right? To kind of guide you of where you're going. Also, the 4 means what? No, not a shift. What does anything in front of x squared do? Negative or positive, but what else? What if I have 4x plus 2? What does that tell me? What does this tell me? Slope. This is slope. So it's going to be pretty steep, right? All right, let's get started. So factor and solve if possible. Let's see if we can factor it. Negative 4, I'm left with x squared plus 4x, sorry, negative 4x. And 4, you can't pull a 4 out of this. Right? Let's pull a 2 out of it. If I pull a 2 out, I have 2x squared minus 8x plus 9. Does that work? All right, let's see if we can factor this. So it's 2x and x for sure, right? There's no other way to factor 2x. This is a positive and this is a negative. That means both of these are going to be negative. I don't have many options with 9, right? 9 is either going to be 3 times 3 or 1 and 9 or 9 and 1, right? So which one do you want to try? 3? 3 and 3. Does that work? No? Now what? 9 and 1. Does 9 and 1 work? Negative 9x and negative 2x makes 8x. Nope, that doesn't work. What about 1 and 9? Does 1 and 9 work? 1x and negative 18x? No. So this is not factorable. Which we don't like. You know why we don't like that? Because now we need a table. Why? If you factor it, you know where you're at. You know that it's crossing the x-axis, and you just go from there. A table, now we're shooting bullets in the dark, right? The only thing I do know is it crosses. Let me change my color here. Shot in the dark. This is my only other shot I've got right there. All right, I'm going to skip my table. I'm going to break the rules. I'm going to move to this right here. Why would I do that? So I know where I get a starting point, right? So I can figure out where my axis of symmetry and then have some symmetry going on. Correct? All right, so how do I find my axis of symmetry? What is this equation? X equals what? Negative b over 2a. Very good. A, b, c. So I'm doing my step b. X equals negative, what's b? 16 over 2 with a? Negative 4. So negative 16 over, which is 2. That makes a lot of sense, right? No? Yes? Makes a lot of sense to me. So if that's my axis of symmetry, where's this point? 1 more over. Yeah? So is it unfolding? Okay, I know my axis of symmetry. I know it's pointing down. I know my graph's got to go something like this. Jose, how do I figure out, I know if I go over 2, that's my x value. How do I find my y value? Well, we already found that. I want to find where, remember you asked me, how do I find out where it is on this line? We know it's a point on the line. I'm going to give you a clue. I know it's a point on the line. Don't I already know that x value? 2. I already found that, right? X equals 2. So x, how do we find the y part of the coordinate? That's how you got this one. I know I'm putting you on the spot. Good job. Excellent. Good job. You plug in, say it louder. Say it louder. Plug it into what? The original equation, into x. So f of 2 equals negative 4 times 2 squared plus 16 times 2 minus 18. 2 squared is 4. 4 times negative 4 is negative 16. 16 times 2 is 32 minus 18. Negative 16 and negative 18 make how many negatives? 34? That's what I was saying to Jose. I said I always combine my negatives and then compare my negatives and my positives. So negative 34 plus 32 makes how much? Negative 2. Does that make sense? What if I got positive 2? Can somebody tell me why positive 2 would not make any sense? No, not 1 root. 2 roots?
No root.
No root. If I said there's my vertex, that means it's got to cross the x-axis. Is it allowed to cross the x-axis? No. Because it's not factorable. So if I got positive 2, I would say to myself, I screwed up somewhere. I better check a sign. So negative 2. So if I go over 2, negative 2, does that make sense? It sure does. I'm going to go over here and make a nice straight line. Not a line, curve. It's really skinny. Does that make sense? Always about thinking about it. Think about what makes sense. All right, so we found the y-intercept. We found the axis of symmetry. We graphed it. Minimum, maximum. Is this a min or a max? It's a max. Good. State the domain and range. Okay. Is x ever nothing? No, it's always something, right? What about my range? Is there any part of the graph that y is not involved in? What? Everything above negative 2, right? Okay, that's where y isn't involved. So where is y involved? Brandon, where is y involved on this graph? Up and down? So y is involved up here? No. So where is it involved? Where do I start? Where I say, you know where y is? Where y is interacting with that graph? Where do we start? What? You can't see it? Right here? Oh, it's at -2. And at -2. So y has to be what? Greater than or less than? It's talking about where the graph is on y. The graph starts at -2 and goes down, so it has to be either at -2 or less than -2. All right, let me pass out your homework so you guys can copy all this fun stuff down. All right, you guys, I want you to do this one. What's your first step in doing this?
Are they all not factors? Oh, you made them all not factors. This one is, though. I read that.
This one,
Wait.
I don't think it is either. All right, well, let's do it together really quick, and you guys can do the rest. So I would factor out a negative, right? I'm evil now. And I would have x squared plus 6x plus 6. This one's easy to see that it's not factorable. Right? X and x. Does 2 and 3 work? No. Does 6 and 1 work? No. So does anything work? No. So what should we do instead? The symmetry thing. Before we do the symmetry thing, isn't there something else we could do?
Negative b over 2a. No.
What's the y-intercept? I can do that by just looking. -6. -6 is way down here. It is helpful. Right? We also know this thing is frowning, right? It's down here. Okay, so now what should I do? Let's go back up to the axis of symmetry. So x equals, I'm trying to find the axis of symmetry. So look, I'm going to put this little point over here. I'm going to find my x, then I'm going to find my y. So to find my x, it's -b over 2a. What's my a? Sorry, what's my b? -6. What's my a? -1. So what's that? 6 over -2, which is -3. Here's -3 right here. Draw myself a line. Uh-oh, it shouldn't have an arrow on it. Okay. Now, I found where I go over on x. How do I find where I go up or down?
Oh, what am I doing? Plug it in.
Plug it in, right? If I want to know my y, I already know my x. My x is -3. And I also know, what else do I know? This answer to y is not going to be what? It's not going to touch the x-axis, therefore it can't be positive. It's got to be negative, right? It's got to be down here. So, would you guys rather me use y? Is that more warm and fuzzy for you? No? Instead of f of x? Does it matter? Okay, good. Then we should do f of x, because that's like big boy math. Alright, so f of x would be, I'm going to substitute in what? -3. So that becomes, got to be careful with my negatives here. It's an opposite of x squared. The x is -3 squared. -6 times -3. Lots of sign changes here, right? All right, so what should I find first with this? It's positive.
-3.
-3 times -3 is +9, but it says it's the opposite of whatever's inside of here, so that's -9. You put it in your calculator wrong.
No, it could be 3. Keep on the phone.
Oh, gotcha. Negative 9, then a negative 6 times a negative 3 is plus 18 minus 6. You guys, you were telling me 3 while I was trying to ask what this was right here. Okay. So I'm just trying to make sure people aren't skipping steps. So negative 9 and negative 6 is how much? Negative 15 plus 18 makes... That doesn't make sense.
So that's definitely not
Where did we go wrong?
Nothing's wrong.
No, we're not done.
Oh, we just back our negative. We plug it the wrong way. We do. Did we plug it the wrong way?
Guys, 2 and 3, 6 and 1, that doesn't work. Okay. It can't be 3.
That's why. I think we should plug it into the factor.
Why can't it be 3? Because then
Because it had roots.
it would have roots. It can't have roots. If it had roots, it would be factorable. Okay, here's the only other way this would work. It could cross the x-axis as an irrational decimal.
Okay, let's take the test though.
Like something like that. Okay, we're not even going to share, right? We're not going to share why because it's coming. Alright, so if we've known, don't cross it off. If we did what we were supposed to do, this should be 3, right? And then we should also have something on the other side, right over, let's see how far away. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, oh, just 3 down right here.
Yeah.
It's wax, is that what you said? Okay. Let's test a point and make sure we're right. What if we put in something easy? 0. We already know that one though. 1, let's put in 1. F of 1 equals negative 1 plus 6. 1 squared is 1, right? Plus 6 minus 6. So if we put in 1, we're going to get negative 1. That makes sense. No, it doesn't. It should be negative 1. This should be plus 6. If I plug in 1, I get negative 1 squared minus 6 times 1. Oh, that's what I was doing. Thank you. Okay, so we should get negative 13. Okay, I feel so much better because I was getting scared. Negative 113, does that make sense? Sure. Why doesn't it make sense? I can't, you guys. This is Algebra 2. Algebra 1 was give you graphs that stay nice and pretty in the graph. Algebra... You want to go do Algebra 1 again? You can. You're not going to get any more credit. Try this one. Number 4 in your homework. 2, 1. Okay, so you should have got this. How did I find it? Well, I knew this wasn't factorable. Then I did my axis of symmetry. Here's what I know. Then I did my y-intercept. Then since I have axis of symmetry, I know if I have to go over 2, then this way I have to go over 2. We could double check. If I put in 4, what do I get? Do you just believe me? But if you were taking a test, would you double check? 16 times 2 is 30. 16 times 2 is not 32. How much is 16 times 2? 16 times 2. 15 times 2 is 30. Yeah, it is. I don't. Negative 32 plus 12. I swear when you get to a certain level of math, the basics, like, have to be, like, suppressed in order to store the other stuff. I swear, you'll see. You'll find out. Okay. So if I put in 4, I get 12. So is it symmetrical? So does it work? Okay. Earlier I was thinking, what was 2 factors of 56? I swear. I'm like, what times does that make 56? 10 times 8. All right. Yeah, I was just checking it. Yeah, that's not required. Questions before we move on? Okay, so what did you learn today? Graphing, right? Why are you guys putting stuff away? Is the bell going to ring? Yeah, 3 minutes. The person next to you is absent. How would you explain when you need to make a table? When do you need a table? It's a trick question. When it's not factorable, you really don't need one, right? Okay, on your assignment sheet, I will always check for what and what before I try to factor. GCS? What else? We talked about it yesterday. No? Squares. Good job. You look for squares. I'll have some of those coming up here. How's that sound?